Welcome to the second day to our workshop. I think yesterday it was a very good day, and we are challenging the practical issues today. And as we heard yesterday, it's really a big challenge, and we are in the beginning. We're doing the first steps, and it's depend of the people that are sitting here. You are actually the hard core of this inventory, and we wish to ask to everybody good luck. I will say my thanks in Hebrew because it's a long list that Yael gave me. אז תודה רבה באמת שאתם פה, ואני רוצה להגיד תודה למי שארגן את היום הזה, את הכנס גם. אז קודם כל למועצה לשימור אתרים שמערכת אותנו פה. אתם לא יודעים כמה הם עזרו לנו, כי המערכות הביורוקרטיות שלנו הן פשוט קשות. אז המון תודה לתמר. כן, מגיע להם. ומי שעוזר לה זה נוגה, זה רשום לי, אני זוכר בעל פה, אבל שאני לא אשכח, נוגה ואביבה וחן, וכמובן למי שארגן את הסדנה הזאת, יעל, א', ליאת, עדי, שהם גם ינחו. יעל אתקין לא אמרתי? לא. היא מהחשובות שלנו. תודה רבה, ותמיד הם עושות את זה בכזה חן ובכזה בשמחה להירתם, שזה פשוט תענוג, לכן אנחנו כל הזמן חוזרים פה, זה כנס איזה רביעי שלנו כאן. אז זהו, אז אני מאחל לנו באמת יום פורה ומעניין.
We had a very intensive day yesterday, and I think it gave us a very wide overview of all the different aspects of inventories. And I think that for the group that is sitting here, it's not obvious that when we talk about inventories, it has a technological aspect, but it has legal aspects, it has philosophical aspects, and all the cultural aspects, and doing this kind of merge and establishing a common language between the organizations, but not least between the different people and professionals who have to work together is part of our purpose here. Aviva was talking about the pioneers coming over to Mikווה Israel, and I think we're doing a kind of a pioneering work ourselves. And yesterday, you did most of the work, Alison, Phil, and David. And today, it's our time to work. And but before we start the session today, I wanted to share with you some reflections about yesterday. And what came to mind is that this wide angle of inventories could seem a little bit intimidating and a little bit even scary. All this complexity and the scope of such a project. And but I'm holding into few words back then that we're in a good point in time, because from several aspects. First of all, we have budget, and this is something that we didn't have before, and it's crucial, as we know. The second thing is, do you hear me well? Okay, I hear the echo. I'm not sure how to rephrase it, but there is a good political state of mind or for collaboration between the different organizations now. And we see it in many different collaboration between the projects, and I think it's a good opportunity nowadays to expand on that. And the third aspect that I could think of is really the information systems are more developed, more mature, more experienced, and so when taking all those elements together, I think although there's a very large effort ahead, we're in a good point of time to start. So although Gidi was a little bit skeptic, I think the legal aspect is only one legal of inventories, definitely not the only one, and maybe not even the most important one, but if we think of other purposes of inventories, sharing information with the public and having the public awareness and all the other uses of inventories that are not less important, it shouldn't hold us back, and we can definitely begin and promote it in different avenues that eventually will come together. When we were looking at the examples that you presented from the UK and from other places, what seems to be the main challenge in Israel is, or a more unique challenge in Israel, is first of all the organizational framework. We don't have one conservation authority or historic preservation authority. The responsibility is divided between different bodies, so it's more complicated. And the other thing that Gidi was presenting was that we lack a holistic policy and a holistic framework, a legal framework. So it's kind of a chicken and egg situation. Do we have to wait until all the pieces are in place and then begin developing the inventory, or could we start developing the inventory parallel to other efforts that we have to make in other avenues? So this is a question that I think we will come up in our discussion today. And the other point that came from the presentation was, since we're split into different organizations, how do we share the data between the organizations, and questions of standardization and all those issues that were presented. And I think that later on in the discussion, maybe Alice and Phil and David could explain a little bit from their experience how they merged different databases and from different sources and different organizations into one system. It could be helpful for us. Okay, so what we're going to do today. We will have now until a short opening session, and at 11 o'clock we will split into 3 groups, and each group is led by, we have Liat facilitating the IT group, Adi facilitating the organizational framework work, and I will be facilitating the data management and data collection group. Alison will join Liat, David will join Adi, and Phil will join me. And discuss in more specific, as each group will focus on specific aspects. And then at 12:30, we already have to be in the dining room. So we will probably leave 15 minutes earlier to get to the dining room on time. And then at 1:30, we come back to work in the groups and conclude the discussion on the issues of each group and prepare the presentation for the assembly of each group in the here at 2:30, and then present the discussion and conclude it. So that's what we're going to do today. But before we start the session of the, forget that part. So the purpose of the workshop is really, yesterday we were studying mainly what was going on in the world. Today we want to take this and see how we can implement it in our Israeli context. So that is one purpose of this day, and bring up all the, understand the scope of the issues that are involved. And as I was saying, it's a very, very, there are many different components who affect each other, and we have to understand this kind of a large idea of an inventory system and establish this common language between us. So we all, when we say inventory, we all understand what an inventory is. And of course, the main outcome is eventually to recommend that this workshop will recommend on embarking the project and starting the process of establishing an inventory and having a dedicated team working on that. So these are the purposes, and it's the same. And as I was saying, since we're many different organizations, we asked the big organizations to present themselves briefly. So each organization prepared a short overview of its responsibilities and activities. I want to call Zohar to present the...
I have to speak.
So...
I work for KKL, which is the Israel Forestry Agency, and we are responsible for around 1 million dunam, which is 1,000 square kilometers of forests. Some of them are natural, some of them are man-made, and we don't have a specific law. We don't have a forest law, so the legal framework that we are dealing is the building, the antiquity law, which we apply in every place, whether it's forest or not. And we have building regulations that refer to archaeological and heritage sites. So this is the legal framework, and we have a policy. We have a forestry policy, which in that policy, heritage sites and heritage is mentioned around, I think, 10 times in each of the leading chapters. And in this policy, one of the purposes of managing the forest is for enhancing heritage sites and keeping heritage for future generations. I will also add that we are part of the Israeli initiative of framing and ethics for heritage for professionals and organizations who are working and dealing with heritage sites. So we are also obliged to this ethic code, which is, I think it's already finished but not signed yet. What do we have? We have a variety of sites. We have archaeological sites, we have heritage sites, and again, there is a very legal line between heritage and the archaeological sites, which is 1700. So we have both of them, and in various scales, from a very small meter by meter water hole to sites that stretch over 200 and 500 dunams, which is towns, cities, etc. And what the number of sites that we have, well, as part of preparing to the workshop, I checked what's going on with our organization national inventory, and apparently we don't have one. So I think one of the benefits from the workshop that now from yesterday we are starting to work on our national inventory. We have around 9,500, thanks to Yael, of archaeological declarations, but the declaration is a very what we say down declaration. It's nothing stands beyond this declaration. It's only a square polygon, so it doesn't say what do you have in place. And in one polygon you can have 10 sites or 15 sites or one site. And it also depends how you define a site. So we have no knowledge of how many sites we have. I know that in one of our last surveys we found 300 sites in a forest which is around 3,000 dunams. 3 square kilometers, we have 278 sites. So if we multiply it to 1 million dunam, we got a lot of sites, I think hundreds of thousands. And part of our activities is we are obliged by law to preserve the sites, but we are also using them as a resource for human activities, for creation, for showing them to the public, and part of our history. And the one thing we started lately is treating our organization heritage as something that should be preserved, like fire watchtowers in our forest, which were destroyed by ourselves. We took old towers from 30, 40 years ago and replaced them in new ones, and we lost a great deal of our own history. So this is something we are now dealing with, is the history of forestry in Israel. That's it.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Israel Nature and Parks Authority. Yuval or Zika?
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. As you saw before in Israel, I call it farm, Kakal. I think you need an archaeologist, by the way. Okay. We can borrow you one. Yeah. Okay, Israel Nature and Parks Authority, we have an area of like 6,000 square kilometers, which is between quarter to third of the land of Israel under our responsibility, and we separate it to nature reserves and national park. Usually national parks in Israel means archaeological sites, not like in the States. And we have approximately 400 national nature reserve and 100 national parks. And it depends on the status. Some of them are already declared, some of them are in the process for declaration. We are working under the legislation of the law on protection of national parks and nature reserve, archaeological and historical sites and monuments also later than 1700 CE, which is national parks and nature reserve. We have also like 9,000 archaeological sites according to the declaration of IAA. This is in Israel, but also there are like 1,000 sites in what we call the West Bank, which some of them are also kind of parks. And we also begin to make degrees or categories for those sites, and we have a list of 270 sites which are which have more valuable. So we have international sites, which already declared by UNESCO as World Heritage Site. We have sites that are in the tentative list of UNESCO, and then we have sites in national importance, and then we have sites which are in regional and local importance. So this altogether 270 sites, and we have the list, not yet on the GIS map, but in the process. And then the others are 9,000, as mentioned by my colleague before from JNF, but we also made a preparation that we know all the sites, what are the purpose, if it's a cistern, or if it's a wine press, or an olive press, or a road, or aqueduct. So we have a map that show all these different types of the sites from the 9,000. That's why I wrote here approximately 10,000 heritage sites. And we have GIS data and textual data, and we have here two people from our authority. Please raise your hand that they are working in the GIS department of our authority. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, planning administration.
Hello, I'm Chen from the Israel Planning Administration. I'm the head of the GIS department, but I'm here as part of a team from the Israel Planning Administration. Our office is responsible for the national, regional, and local master plans. We manage aspects of plans, approval, and strategic plans, and we're in charge of the planning in Israel. We don't manage a certain piece of land, but we manage the planning in the whole area, in the different levels. What we could give here. First, I want to say that I'm really happy to be here, and we bless this opportunity to be part of this team, and that for the fact that this is going on and is going to be something that inventory is something that is going to lead the aspect of heritage is great from where we see it. Something that Israel was lacking in for a lot of years. Actually, what we can be here for is combining the different data, the planning data that defines in certain specific plans that concerns to heritage, and putting it together with this big puzzle of data. Our legislation covering is the planning and building law. We were asked what is the number of heritage resources that are under our jurisdiction, but we wish we had this answer. That's why we're here. I think that's why we're all here. And what else I can say? What else we can?
What kind of databases do you have?
About the data, we've got everything. If it in GIS, if it's in CAD, in shapefiles, CAD, different maps, just PDF maps. And we're here to be with you and to think what is the right way to build this for the whole country that is going to contribute everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tamar? The Council for Conservation of Heritage Sites in Israel.
Hi. So some of the things that I'm going to say will be in Hebrew because I have more things to say.
You don't want to share with them?
No. The council was established around 30 years ago by a government decision in order to preserve the historical site, because we have a law already for the antiquity, but we didn't have for the historical site. And the council is a very small group. We are like 150 people, working people all over the country, and it includes a museum and of course all the district. We work in three main dimensions, but we have we deal with several things, and this is also the way we receive our inventory of sites all over the country. We have the educational department, we have the physics department, and we have the practical, it's not the department, we have the district. The work in the different districts all over the country. We work in the district like the government district. And for each district we have a manager and a team. But most of the people we work with are volunteers, and we have volunteers all over the country that they help us, the grassroots, rise information. We receive most of the information we have, we receive from the field, from the people. Then we have, in the education, we work with schools and universities, and we receive more information, or we use them also to do some of the survey. And more important is spreading the news about conservation. And we always mix between the heritage, the physical heritage, with the story, the narrative of the site, because like you saw here in Mikווה is all the site. Mikווה is this room specific. We have something that we only have here in Israel. In this later on, when we have when we want to have the light, just little light, you can see on the ceiling. You can see some footprints that explain how it was done. This arch. So later on, if you look up, you can find some of this footprint. It's negative footprint. How the children that helped to create this roof did it. We will tell you more about it later. But the story for us, when we talk about inventory of conservation, it starts with element, and sometimes it's use site. And it's like yesterday you asked me how many historical sites we have, what is the list, and I tell you we have hundreds and thousands, because it's a lot, and not all of them listed, and many of them even not, we don't know about some of them, many of them yet, because some of the information we receive any day, and when we receive this information, we apply it to the authorities. We work with authorities, sometimes against authority. We work with the public, sometimes against the public. It depends on the issue. But when the government established this organization, our mission was to preserve the site in any way we can do it. What else was important? We have committees in every decision we do with the public. For each district we have a special committee with volunteers, and volunteers could be historians, it could be tour guides, it could be lawyers, it could be people that understand about real estate. So when we think about our activity, we take under consideration all the elements, and then we can apply or submit alternative program. And if we need, we take the authority or the private owner to court. But usually we believe to do things in a nice way and in the pleasant way, and to do the project and to be involved all along the process. And among the activities that we do, and it also helps This is one of the example. We organize different kind of courses. One of them is a photography course, and today they open another one in this room. This is why later on we will be in other places also. But because the people that are in the contest help us to find also important sites. We have a beautiful project with Wikipedia and other organization, and also raise the awareness and also raise the opportunity of raising people that can give us information in the real time if somebody trying to hurt a site or so on. So this is just a brief about what we are doing. Another thing I want to say that when we're talking about conservation, it's not just about the building, it's also the story, it's also the different element and also the machinery. You saw some of it in the film, but we're dealing with restoration of old machine, and we understand that people with all the technician, we believe that people like to touch the site, and when they see a historical machine working or historical house, if you see the way people used to live or used to act, like you have in a lot of them in England and United States, it helps to pass the knowledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you. את רוצה זה לקרוא?
אולי, אבל זה ריק. So I would briefly present the Israel Antiquities Authority, and since I was thrown into it, so I will have a bit...
לא יותר קל לך לקרוא מפה?
Okay, so I would represent the Israel Antiquities Authority. The Israel Antiquities Authority, as mentioned, is an authority, so we work under laws. There are two laws that apply to us. It's the Law of Antiquities of 1978 and the Israel Antiquities Law. Actually, we manage all man-made objects prior to 1700. So that means that everything that is found under the ground, under sea, or at ground level, which is prior to 1700, is under our responsibility by law. So we are the body that grants licenses for excavations. We are the body that you should contact if you are planning to do something in the ground, to develop, to build, to destroy. We are there. So we are also part of the planning and administration. We take part in those discussions as well. We are divided into 4 units all over the country, and we also have a conservation unit, which is a lot of them are here, and an underwater unit as well. We start from the excavation process. We document everything via documentation system. So since 5 years ago, everything is already computerized. Since then, before then, it was all paper. So you can imagine we have quite a large archive at the IAA, which includes a lot of paperwork, maps, plans, photographs. After the material is being excavated, we have laboratories which are dealing with the preservation. And then at the end, the finds arrive to the national treasures, where that's their burial place, actually. But we won't say that. That's their final storage place. And we as archaeologists also have to hand in a report about what we found. The reports are being published in several websites, so the data is available online. What else? Actually, we do have, regarding databases, we do have a large database. It's called Menorah. We now have more than 32,000 known archaeological sites. Unfortunately, like I think Phil said yesterday, we do not delete those that are being destroyed. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you everyone for their presentations. We are a little bit short in time, and I want to explain briefly what we will do in the groups and then take a little bit from the group time to discuss some of the main issues that we wanted to discuss in the assembly. We prepared a kind of a template for the final presentation in the assembly. I presented the groups before. Okay, so the first slide, we will ask you in the groups to write down the main issues that you are discussing, and we all have the questions that we prepared for each group. And then on the next slide, we would ask you to write very briefly the conclusions and the recommendations for each issue. Obviously, what we're doing today is mainly bring up and discuss which issues we should develop. We don't have the answers now. We are only starting the project, right? And then we were thinking that maybe it's a little bit optimistic if we could kind of draft a very, very basic outline. What are the steps that we need to go through to establish the inventories? What kind of components should be there? And obviously, the most important is the first step, because that's the step that we have ahead. But kind of there's a lot of experience among the different organizations here with big projects, development projects. So, and there's your experience. So I think we're a good pool there's a good pool of knowledge here to draft a very, very first kind of put things on paper, not just, and it will commit us later on and be a recommendation for the directors to start the project. Yes, Will.
You already wrote the end of the process. Can we just
skip to the end?
Can we ignore the end?
Okay. Okay. So the first question, and we also we will start with very, very basic questions here in the assembly, and in let's say in 10 past 11 we will move to the groups. The first questions, and Alison, Phil, and David were very helpful in drafting those questions and guiding us. What are the kind of things we have to think about? Is who will be responsible for the inventory? And there are many different agencies here. There are many different organizations. And is there one organization? Are we establishing a kind of a new sort of conglomerate? I'm not sure how we should call it. But someone has to take responsibility. I mean, so what would be kind of our first intuitive take on that? And I'm opening it to you to kind of storm and have your thoughts about it. Anyone wants to start? Anyone has a vision? Okay. Okay. Well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Two questions. First of all, if I'm the first, it doesn't mean that I'm in charge. But there is a problem. There is a legal issue with the in charge thing because when we have data which is approved data, it comes with a lot of legal issues that are obligatory and they have all kinds of consequences. So if I'm in charge to organizational data and something happened, me as an organization or me as a person in the organization which is in charge of the data, I have to deal with the consequences. It could be legal ones, it could be criminal ones, it could be insurance, and it could be also internal policy. If I'm giving you as an outsource manager the data, what do I do with the legal issues? Do I pass them to you? Are you willing to accept my legal obligations? If something will happen, will you go to jail instead of me? It's very simple. It's like we are dealing a lot of the issues of managing area, which is I think maybe just me and Zvika are dealing with managing maybe a little bit, but when we manage land, we might end in jail. So will you go to jail instead of me? Are you willing to do so? So it's not an easy question. I'm not sure there is a good or right or one answer to the question.
It's definitely a big topic that we will have to answer in the future. What we're doing now is maybe bringing up the issues,
all the legal
understand
issues.
what we have to deal with in the project.
All the legal issues will be part of the process, how to find an answer for all that. But we must start from recollect all the data. When we're going to have the answer for all the legal issues, we will open this data for the public. But for the beginning, let's recollect the data to have this great thing for all of that.
I think otherwise around that. I'll give you an example. There is a company in Israel called Shribnet. They are doing trail mappings of all kinds of trails, bike trails, hiking trails, and they wanted to collaborate with us. And we looked at their trails, and they're collecting. They're like a trail inventory. They're collecting data from every source that they can get, and they're
To show you what were the other questions that we were preparing, but we will have to have more workshops and to discuss them more thoroughly. So we started with the responsible, but the second question was the purposes of the inventory. It came up yesterday whether it's only information or is it only for managing designation information, planning or managing conservation activities, because there are different bodies here with different responsibilities. Some are responsible for land, some are responsible in like the planning administration or for legal, for processes of regulation. And the other question is about the users, who are the different users. Should we prioritize when we establish the inventory? Should we start, let's say, from this, do we think that one user is more important than the other one and start with them, or should we start with all of them in mind from the beginning? So it's just a question. We don't have time now to answer that. Of course, the type of resources. archaeological sites, historical buildings and towns and so forth. And just to say, in that aspect, another effort that we have to do is not just about the database and the information system, but we also have to establish a lot of the content because we don't have it yet. So we have to do a few efforts in the same time. And well, we discussed the status of the assets and inventory, and yeah. So that was the ideas that we wanted to cover now, but we'll just have it in mind and split into the groups.